Hey yo, today's Monday, October 25th, 2021. This is number 31. And today I wanted to talk about cost structure. Because I showed off the house yesterday, at least part of it, and I just wanted to go into my decision making process, my thought process about why I decided to purchase such a rundown house. So, it's hard to know where to start with this. I'm going to talk about the motivation behind bringing cost structure down as low as possible. So, when I was in Los Angeles, I was paying $1,500 a month in rent. 15. And, another couple hundred up to 500 just to live, like food, gas, going out with friends, whatever. Just somewhere between 15 and 2,000 was probably what I was spending, probably a little bit more on some months, but you're paying that much just to live, just to be alive. And so let's say I lose my job, or let's say I quit my job. I would be, whatever my savings was would just be dropping by 2,000 a month every month. So if I had $24,000 saved up, after a year of not having a job, I'd have $0. And so a year would be my horizon for finding another employer. And I didn't have 24,000 saved up. So I'm working at this tech company, right? And they gave me one raise a year into it, which was nice. But I got another year into it, and then I got a little bit more than another year into it. And the second review didn't come, and the company was disorganized, and that's a long story. But I did go and ask for more money from my boss. He redirected me to another person who redirected me to HR. I got spun around in circles, and eventually I sort of got the soft HR version of no, we can't do this right now. And I realized in that moment something that I think is obvious to a lot of people, but when you go ask for more money from a company, you need to be able to leave that company that day. You need to have your 2 weeks notice in your back pocket if you're going to ask for a raise. So it's either that, or you have to have an alternative employer lined up. So I go ask for some amount of money and I say, hey, this company over here is going to pay me this much, so you got to match that or I'm leaving, or something like that. You need to have a negotiating position, a position from which to negotiate. And I didn't have that. So I wasn't ready to leave because I had to pay $2,000 a month just to live. And so when I went and asked for more money, I was asking from a terrible position. Terrible position. And so I was thinking, like, okay, yeah, I could go grab an offer from another company, which means I got to start interviewing, applying, going through that process, and then I can come with an offer and do all this, which is what a lot of people at my company were doing. There was a huge turnover rate. People in the tech field, they don't last at one company for very long. The turnover rate was crazy. We had a guy that came from Amazon, worked for our company for 6 months, and then went back to Amazon. And the entire thing was he just came over to us to get more money from Amazon. Like, he was just saying, hey, I'm going to leave you guys. And then they wanted him back. And, that's sort of the nature of companies in the tech field, at least, is just the way to make more money, really, is just to bounce around between companies and just grab another 10,000 each time you move. Which is not what I want to do. That's not, I'm obviously speaking from a position of a little bit of, I've had good fortune in my life. I'm privileged in certain ways, I can admit that. But it all started coming back to me. It all started revolving around cost structure to me. I thought if I wasn't paying so much in rent, I would have a better negotiating position because I'd be able to leave any employer. I'm not jumping from one employer to another. I want to jump from an employer to no employer. I want to be able to say fuck you to everybody. I wanted to be able to say, no, I'm not working for any of you guys until you pay me what I'm worth. And I understand that sounds a little bit entitled, but truly in a negotiation, I need to be able to leave at a moment's notice. I need to be able to say no, and that needs to be as easy as possible. Because currently, the way it stood in Los Angeles was the cost for me to leave. Like, let's say that I just left with no plan. My confidence in getting a new job, let's say it was going to take me like 1 to 2 to 3 months to get another job. That could cost me $6,000, right? Because if it took me 3 months and I'm paying $2,000 a month to stay alive, that's a $6,000 cost to leave my current company. And so when I go to negotiate with them, they don't know what my cost is, but I know in my own head, okay, it's going to cost me to leave. So I can't just leave at a moment's notice. I don't have that power, right? And it gets even worse. Like, what if it takes me 6 months to leave? Like, there's a risk, right? What if it takes me 6 months to find a new job? And then I'm $12,000 just to leave my company. That's like what it costs me. And I think that this is, you know, not to get into too far of like a conspiracy, sort of like hippie sounding, you know, in a sense, like this is how the system is set up on purpose. It's set up to put employees in a position where they need employers, and the employers are built in a way where they know that the employees need them, right? Like there's this, you sort of become chained to the system, you become attached to it, and then you start to get into this concept of the luxury trap, which, you know, don't even get me started. It's like what happens is your cost structure just goes up over time. So I was only paying $1,500 a month in rent, which is like nothing compared to what other people were paying. There's people I met that were like, I met this lawyer one time, he was paying like $4,000 a month in rent. So think about what his position is now if he quits his job. I don't even know what the rest of his expenses are. Like, I don't know what people's positions are, but basically your cost structure just kind of gets bigger and bigger, and then you become more and more dependent on people giving you money. And so I hated this. I wanted to be able to leave an employer and have years of not having to work if I didn't want to, right? I wanted to be able to leave and have almost no cost to leaving. And that would put me, if you think about it, if I had this ability, let's say that I was in a position where I could leave a company and know solidly in my head that I could survive a year comfortably. A year with no income. In Los Angeles, that would take a minimum of $24,000 from me. Minimum. And it's risky, you know? So that's what brings me here. That's what brings me to this place here. So what I've done here is I spent most of my money. I got lucky with an investment, two investments specifically, which maybe I'll do other videos on, but I managed to turn, you know, I was putting money away every month while I was working and investing a huge chunk of it in risky investments. And I managed to multiply that money by a lot. And I spent nearly all of it on this land. So why did I do that? Well, I'm not in any debt right now. I owe less than $1,000 a year to the government in property tax. And that's it. The rest of my expenses are just food, gas. You know, like I've been saying, this house, I am in physical debt on the house, like material-wise. But it's not going to collapse. Like, even if I stopped working on it today, it will, you know, it's not very comfortable to live inside of. And I'm going to do another video about how the process, you know, this has been a very uncomfortable process. I couldn't even move into the house for the first month. I was sleeping in my car for the first month. I still don't have an indoor toilet or an indoor shower. Like, this wasn't easy. It's still not easy, and it won't be easy for another year. But let me explain what I've done here now. Like, what position am I in now? So now, I'm currently unemployed. But when I do get employed again, I'm going to get another tech job. I'm going to get another software dev job at some point here. And now, if an employer says, hey, you know, if 5:30 rolls around and I'm closing my laptop, so to speak, you know, I'm saying, okay, I'm done. The employer says, hey, you got to fix this thing. You need to stay another hour. Like, this is an experience I had in Los Angeles. I quit my first job. I got another one for a month and a half before the pandemic started. I had this experience where it was 5:30 and I was like kind of packing up for the day, trying to leave. And my boss is like, hey, you got to do this thing. You got to stay another hour and a half. And I have to stay, right? I'm not an hourly employee. I'm a salary employee. And I was not in a position where I could just say no to that. Because let's say I say no and he goes, you have to do this. And I say, or else what? And he says, you're fired. And I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle that because I needed to pay rent. You know, I didn't have a crazy amount of savings. I was chained to this employer. And so what I want is to be in a position where if they ask me to do something I don't want to do, I just say, I quit. I'm out. Bye. See ya. If you want me to work 1 minute past 5:30, I'm out. I mean, assuming that was part of the agreement to begin with, you know, I'm not saying that that's like a hard rule for me, but I wanted to be in a position where I could leave an employer at a moment's notice. And so now I've done that. I've put myself in that position. I don't need that much saved up to leave. Like, I can theoretically live on like whatever it costs for me to buy food for a year. Really, food and gas and some, you know, there's other expenses and things, but I have made my cost structure as low as I can possibly make it. Like, it's so low. And once I get this house fixed up, once I spend the money on materials and things, since I'm doing it all myself, well, I'll get into that in a different video. I'm doing all the repairs, everything myself, just so that I know how to do it in the future and to save, again, more money. I'm trying to bring my cost structure down so low that I will never again be tied to an employer, ever. And I will always have a strong negotiating position. If I want more money, I'll be able to leave that day. I'll be like, hey, pay me more money or I'm out of here. And it'll be easy for me to do. I'll have a strong position to negotiate from. So that's why I bought this house. That's why I bought this land. I mean, it's part of the reason. It's why I spent almost all of the money that I had saved up that I got from, I just spent like almost all my money on this. And you might call it crazy or risky, or I think it's unusual to do, but like now I'm like as independent as possible, and now I have a strong negotiating position. So in theory, I should be able to make more money from potential employers. That's my philosophy. That's why I bought this house. That's why I've taken this risk. You know, I purchased a house that most people would not go near. I mean, I talked to some other people that looked at it and they thought I was nuts. But to me, it's an excellent opportunity. It's a perfect deal. Perfect deal. I got a whole house for free. Technically, I basically bought the land. The house came with it. It's like a negative expense because it's taking tens of thousands of dollars to fix it. But I'm doing it all myself, all of it. The only thing that I've had another person do was reconnect it to the power grid, because the previous owners were stealing electricity, so the power company came out and cut the power line to the house. And I didn't really think that was a job I should do myself. So that was the only thing that I hired somebody else to do. I also dig out some garbage. I had a guy come over with a scooper to scoop out some garbage that they had piled up into a big hole because they were meth heads. But when it comes to everything in the house, I'm doing it myself for a couple reasons. One, I can, and two, it puts me in a position where I have to buy the tools, so it's like I'm paying some money up front to purchase the tools to do the job, but now I have the tool for my whole life if I take care of it, and I'll be able to address this issue as it comes up. Like if something breaks, I can fix it myself. Again, saving money. Like, my entire philosophy here has been to reduce the amount of money that I have to spend across my whole life, really. And it comes with a lot of discomfort right now. It comes with like a high risk purchase. But if it works out, you know, I'm going to be in a great position, and I'll be able to leverage this position to get more money and salary in the future. Because I don't need an employer. You know, they're going to have to pay me what I'm worth, And if I don't think that they're paying me what I'm worth, I'm leaving. And if they want me to do something I don't want to do, I'm leaving. They're going to give me some amount per year, and I'm going to give them what I think that money is worth. So if they pay me $100,000 a year, I'm going to say, here's $100,000 of my time. And if they ask for an hour more, I'm out. I'm quitting that day. So maybe that makes me unreasonable, but I think I'm in a great position now. That's what it feels like. I just have to get my house fixed. I got to be able to take a shower inside. I gotta fix the bathroom. I'm gonna do a tour of the inside, and you're gonna see it's truly a mess. So it's gonna take like a year and a half of living in some wacky conditions, but I'm okay with that. This is the trade I'm making. I'm doing this now so that for the rest of my life I can be in a stronger position to negotiate from, and that's really it. That's why I've done this. You know, and I'm not saying that everybody else can do this. Like, I did have to have an amount of money to drop on this. I did buy this with cash, a considerable amount of cash. But I did purchase it from a desperate situation, a desperate family. You know, they couldn't get anybody to buy this place. And I just rolled up, you know, drove up in my van from California. I said, hey, I will buy this from you right now. So cost structure. It's really about cost structure. You need to bring your cost structure as low as possible. The higher your cost structure, if your cost structure is too high, you put yourself in a position where you either need savings or you need an employer all the time. And to me, that's just being stuck. That's being chained to the man, you know? I didn't want to be chained to the man anymore. Alright, that's probably enough for this one. Bye.